In today's episode, we're exploring 5 horrifying animals that invaded neighborhoods, from a morning jogger stalked by a mountain lion to a teenager ambushed while taking a shortcut home. But first, let's begin with the first story, where a woman's daily routine led to a terrifying encounter. It was October 7th, 2016, and the affluent Boulder, Colorado neighborhood of Wildwood Heights was still wrapped in the quiet darkness of early morning. The upscale residential development, built just 5 years earlier on the edge of the Rocky Mountain foothills, featured winding streets lined with modern homes that backed up against natural open space and wildlife corridors. Lisa Hartwell, a 33-year-old marketing coordinator for a local tech company, was beginning her daily 5 a.m. jogging routine through the neighborhood's carefully planned streets and cul-de-sacs. Lisa had moved to Wildwood Heights 2 years earlier, drawn by the community's promise of mountain living with urban conveniences. She was a dedicated fitness enthusiast who maintained a strict exercise schedule despite her demanding career, often rising before dawn to complete her 5-mile run before heading to the office. Lisa's morning routine had become sacred to her, a peaceful time when she could clear her mind while enjoying the crisp mountain air and stunning views of the Front Range. The neighborhood had been experiencing an unusually dry autumn, with drought conditions extending well into what should have been the wet season. Local wildlife officials had issued warnings about increased animal activity in residential areas, as deer, elk, and their predators were being forced to venture closer to human settlements in search of water sources. Several residents had reported mountain lion sightings over the past month, including tracks found in backyards and a large cat spotted near the community's retention pond. Lisa had heard about the wildlife warnings but dismissed them as typical Colorado mountain living concerns. She continued her early morning runs without altering her route or carrying any deterrents, confident that her familiar neighborhood streets were safe. Mountain lions, also known as cougars or pumas, are North America's second-largest wildcat species, with adult males weighing between 115 and 220 pounds. These powerful predators are perfectly adapted for hunting in mountainous terrain, possessing incredible stealth, speed, and jumping ability that allows them to leap vertically up to 15 feet and horizontally up to 45 feet. Mountain lions are primarily ambush hunters that rely on surprise attacks, typically targeting the neck and spine of their prey to deliver quick, fatal bites. As Lisa jogged through the pre-dawn darkness, she was completely unaware that a 140-pound male mountain lion had been stalking a mule deer through the drainage culvert that ran beneath the street she was approaching. Lisa's approach disrupted the carefully planned hunt, startling both the deer and the mountain lion. The deer bolted across the street and disappeared into the darkness, leaving the frustrated predator crouched in the shadows of the concrete drainage opening. The attack came without warning as Lisa passed within 10 feet of the drainage culvert. The 140-pound mountain lion exploded from the shadows with incredible speed, covering the distance between them in a single, powerful leap. His massive front paws struck Lisa between the shoulder blades with devastating force, sending her crashing face first onto the asphalt street while his weight drove her to the ground. Lisa's attempts to scream were cut short as the mountain lion's powerful jaws clamped down on the back of her neck, his 4-inch canine teeth puncturing through muscle and vertebrae with crushing force. The mountain lion's razor-sharp claws raked across Lisa's back and shoulders, each swipe opening deep gashes that severed major blood vessels and caused massive tissue damage. The 140-pound cat used his incredible strength to pull Lisa's body across the asphalt and down into the concrete culvert, where the darkness and confined space would provide protection while he fed. Lisa's body was recovered 3 hours later by a joint team of police officers and Colorado Parks and Wildlife personnel. The mountain lion had abandoned his kill when the search teams approached, retreating further into the drainage network that connected to the natural creek system beyond the neighborhood. Lisa had died from massive trauma to her neck and spine, with the mountain lion's killing bite proving instantly fatal. The investigation revealed that Lisa had been jogging along her usual route when she inadvertently interrupted the mountain lion's hunt, triggering the attack that cost her life. The mountain lion was tracked and euthanized the following day after being located in the foothills above the neighborhood. But mountain neighborhoods weren't the only places where wildlife invaded suburban spaces with deadly results. In Florida, a retiree's peaceful evening routine would turn into a nightmare when he encountered one of the state's most dangerous predators in his own backyard. It was June 14, 2015, and the Sunset Lake subdivision in suburban Tampa, Florida, was settling into another warm summer evening. The gated community, built around a series of interconnected retention ponds and decorative canals, had been marketed as a tropical paradise for retirees seeking the Florida lifestyle. Walt Kowalski, a 67-year-old retired plumber from Ohio, was enjoying his 5th year in the Sunshine State from the comfort of his backyard patio, which overlooked one of the community's scenic waterways. Walt had moved to Florida after selling his successful plumbing business, drawn by the promise of year-round golf, fishing, and outdoor living that had been impossible during Ohio's harsh winters. He had purchased a modest ranch home with direct water access, complete with a private dock where he could fish and feed the ducks that had become regular visitors to his backyard. Walt's evening routine typically involved sitting on his patio with a cold beer, watching the sunset reflect off the calm water while tossing breadcrumbs to the waterfowl. The Sunset Lakes community had been built on reclaimed wetlands, with developers creating an elaborate system of retention ponds and canals to manage stormwater runoff while providing attractive water features for residents. The artificial waterways were connected to natural creek systems that flowed into Tampa Bay, creating corridors that allowed wildlife to move freely between developed and undeveloped areas. Recent heavy rains had raised water levels throughout the region, bringing increased wildlife activity to residential areas. Walt had noticed more alligators in the community's waters over the past few months, but like most Florida residents, he had learned to coexist with the reptiles as a normal part of life in the state. Walt's regular duck feeding had created a reliable food source that attracted waterfowl from throughout the area. American alligators are apex predators that have remained virtually unchanged for over 200 million years, perfectly adapted for their role as ambush hunters in aquatic environments. Adult males can reach lengths of 14 feet and weights exceeding 1,000 pounds, with jaw muscles capable of exerting over 3,000 pounds of pressure per square inch. Alligators are opportunistic feeders that will consume any animal they can overpower, including birds, fish, mammals, and occasionally humans who venture too close to their territory. That evening, Walt had been relaxing on his patio when he noticed that his favorite fishing lure had become tangled in the vegetation near his dock. Walt waded into the knee-deep water near his dock, using a long-handled net to try to free the snagged lure from the underwater vegetation. He had performed similar retrievals many times over the past 5 years without incident, confident that the shallow water near his property was safe for brief wading. The attack came from directly beneath Walt as he stood in the canal, focused on retrieving his lure. A 12-foot male alligator that had been submerged motionless near the dock for over an hour, waiting for ducks to approach the feeding area, exploded upward with devastating force. The massive reptile's jaws clamped down on Walt's right leg with bone-crushing power, his 3,000 pounds of bite pressure instantly fracturing the femur and severing major arteries. The alligator immediately initiated his signature death roll, spinning rapidly in the water while maintaining his grip on Walt's leg. The violent rotation dislocated Walt's hip and pulled him fully into the canal, where the gator's natural advantages became overwhelming. The 12-foot alligator dragged Walt toward the deeper center of the canal, where his superior swimming ability and underwater endurance made escape impossible. Within minutes, Walt's movements ceased as drowning and massive blood loss overwhelmed his system. Emergency responders arrived within 10 minutes of Margaret's call, but the alligator had already retreated to the deeper water with Walt's body. Police and wildlife officers worked through the night to locate and capture the massive reptile, using specialized equipment and trained personnel to safely extract both the alligator and Walt's remains from the canal. The investigation revealed that Walt's regular duck feeding had inadvertently attracted the large alligator to his property, creating a dangerous situation that culminated in the fatal attack. Walt's death prompted immediate changes to the Sunset Lakes community's water safety protocols, including the installation of warning signs around all retention ponds and canals. But Florida's waterways weren't the only suburban environments where deadly wildlife encounters occurred. In North Carolina, a dog walker's evening routine would turn tragic when she encountered a protective mother bear in a residential neighborhood. It was March 18, 2017, and the upscale Asheville, North Carolina neighborhood of Mountain View Estates was experiencing the first warm evening of spring. The residential development, built on the slopes of the Blue Ridge Mountains, featured large lots with mature trees and natural landscaping that blended seamlessly with the surrounding forest. Maria Santos, a 41-year-old single mother and part-time dog walker, was making her evening rounds through the neighborhood's winding streets, caring for the pets of wealthy residents who relied on her services. Maria had been working as a professional dog walker for 3 years, building a loyal clientele among Mountain View Estate's affluent homeowners who appreciated her reliability and genuine love of animals. She often walked multiple dogs simultaneously, managing up to 6 animals at once while maintaining perfect control and ensuring each pet received individual attention. Maria's income from dog walking helped supplement her day job at a local veterinary clinic, allowing her to support her teenage daughter as a single parent. The Mountain View Estates development had been carved out of pristine mountain forest, with builders required to preserve mature trees and maintain natural wildlife corridors throughout the community. Recent construction of additional homes had disrupted established animal movement patterns, forcing bears, deer, and other wildlife to seek new routes through residential areas. The North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission had issued warnings about increased bear activity in mountain communities, particularly as animals emerged from winter hibernation. Maria was aware of the wildlife warnings, but had never encountered any dangerous animals during her 3 years of walking dogs in the neighborhood. She carried pepper spray as a precaution and had received training on wildlife encounters from the local animal control office. On this particular evening, she was walking 3 large dogs, 2 German Shepherds and a Golden Retriever, along the community's main street when she noticed unusual activity near a row of garbage cans. Black bears are North America's most common bear species, with adult females typically weighing between 200 and 400 pounds. Mother bears with cubs are extremely protective and will attack any perceived threat to their offspring without hesitation. Bears have an excellent sense of smell and are drawn to residential areas by garbage, pet food, and other attractants. When surprised or cornered, bears can run up to 35 miles per hour and possess the strength to break down doors and overturn cars. Their powerful claws and teeth make them capable of inflicting devastating injuries on humans who threaten their cubs or territory. As Maria approached the intersection where several garbage cans had been placed for morning pickup, she discovered a 300-pound female black bear with 2 small cubs rummaging through the containers. The mother bear had torn open several bags and was feeding on discarded food while her cubs played nearby. Maria immediately recognized the danger and began backing away slowly, but the 3 dogs she was walking became agitated and started barking aggressively at the bears. The mother bear's protective instincts were immediately triggered by the barking dogs, which she perceived as a direct threat to her cubs' safety. She rose to her full height and began making aggressive vocalizations while positioning herself between the dogs and her offspring. Maria tried to control the excited animals and retreat to a safe distance, but the dogs continued barking and lunging, only escalated the dangerous situation. The 300-pound mother bear charged toward Maria and the dogs with explosive speed, covering the 30 yards between them in seconds. Maria attempted to run while holding 3 leashes, but became entangled in the leads and fell hard onto the asphalt street. The dogs scattered in different directions, leaving Maria vulnerable and unable to escape as the enraged bear approached. The mother bear's massive paws struck Maria's back and shoulders with bone-crushing force, driving her face first into the pavement, while her weight pinned the smaller woman to the ground. The bear's powerful jaws clamped down on Maria's head and neck, her teeth puncturing through skull bone and severing vital arteries. Maria's attempts to protect herself proved futile against an animal possessing several times her strength and weight. The bear's razor-sharp claws raked across Maria's torso and limbs, each swipe opening deep gashes that caused massive blood loss and tissue damage. The mother bear's attack was methodical and brutal, driven by maternal instincts to eliminate any threat to her cub's safety. Maria's struggles grew weaker as trauma and blood loss overwhelmed her system. Residents in nearby homes heard the commotion and called 911 while attempting to scare the bear away with loud noises and bright lights. The mother bear eventually retreated with her cubs toward the forest, leaving Maria motionless on the street. Paramedics arrived within minutes, but were unable to save Maria, who had died from massive head and neck trauma. The investigation revealed that improperly secured garbage containers had attracted the mother bear and her cubs to the residential area, creating the conditions for the fatal encounter. Wildlife officials determined that the bear had been acting defensively to protect her offspring and was not exhibiting abnormally aggressive behavior. The mother bear and cubs were successfully relocated to a remote mountain area away from human populations. Maria's death prompted immediate changes to Mountain View Estate's waste management protocols, including the installation of bear-proof garbage containers and new guidelines for refuse storage. The community also implemented an early warning system for wildlife sightings and began requiring all residents to remove potential attractants from their properties. But mountain communities weren't the only places where suburban wildlife encounters turned deadly. In Florida's Everglades region, a hard-working landscaper would face a hidden predator while maintaining the manicured grounds of a luxury development. It was August 22, 2014, and the exclusive Cypress Point community on the edge of the Florida Everglades was shimmering in the intense heat of a summer afternoon. The gated development, built on reclaimed wetlands and featuring artificial lakes and water features throughout its manicured landscape, represented the pinnacle of luxury living in South Florida. Roberto Mendez, a 35-year-old landscaper and small business owner, was working alone to maintain the pristine grounds that made Cypress Point one of the region's most desirable addresses. Roberto had built his landscaping company from nothing, starting with a single lawnmower and gradually expanding to serve some of the area's wealthiest communities. He took pride in his work and was known for his attention to detail and willingness to go above and beyond for his clients. Roberto supported his wife and 2 young children through his business, often working long hours in the Florida heat to provide for his family's future. The Cypress Point development had been constructed on former Everglades wetlands, with developers creating an elaborate system of decorative ponds and water features that were connected to natural waterways through a series of canals and drainage systems. The artificial lakes were stocked with ornamental fish and surrounded by tropical landscaping that required constant maintenance in the humid subtropical climate. Recent heavy rains had raised water levels throughout the region, creating ideal conditions for wildlife movement between natural and artificial water systems. Roberto was familiar with Florida's wildlife and had encountered alligators, snakes, and other dangerous animals during his years of outdoor work. He maintained a healthy respect for these creatures and typically checked water features carefully before working near them. On this particular afternoon, he was trimming decorative bushes around one of the community's smaller ornamental ponds when his expensive hedge trimmer slipped from his hands and fell into the shallow water. American alligators are perfectly camouflaged ambush predators that can remain motionless for hours while waiting for prey to approach their territory. Adult females typically measure 8 to 10 feet in length and can weigh up to 200 pounds, possessing incredible speed and power when attacking. Alligators are most dangerous when protecting nesting sites or when surprised by humans who venture into their territory. Their bite force exceeds 2,000 pounds per square inch, and their death roll technique is designed to disorient and drown prey in aquatic environments. Roberto waded into the knee-deep ornamental pond to retrieve his hedge trimmer, assuming that the manicured water feature was safe for brief entry. The decorative pond appeared peaceful and well-maintained, with no visible signs of wildlife activity among the carefully arranged aquatic plants and ornamental features. Roberto had worked around similar water features hundreds of times without incident. The attack came the moment Roberto's feet touched the pond's muddy bottom. A 10-foot female alligator that had been lying motionless among the decorative vegetation exploded into action, her powerful jaws clamping down on Roberto's right leg with devastating force. The massive reptile's bite instantly fractured his tibia and fibula, while her teeth punctured through major arteries and muscle tissue. The alligator immediately initiated her signature death roll, spinning rapidly in the water while maintaining her crushing grip on Roberto's leg. The violent rotation pulled Roberto off his feet and into the deeper center of the pond, where the gator's aquatic advantages became overwhelming. Roberto's desperate attempts to break free only triggered the alligator's instincts to bite down harder and roll more aggressively. Roberto's screams for help echoed across the manicured grounds as the 10-foot alligator continued her relentless death roll. The spinning motion dislocated Roberto's knee and hip, while causing massive internal bleeding and tissue damage. The ornamental pond's clear water turned red as Roberto's struggles grew weaker with each rotation. A homeowner working in his garden heard Roberto's cries and rushed to investigate, arriving just in time to witness the final moments of the attack. The alligator had dragged Roberto into the deepest part of the pond, where his attempts to reach the surface for air were thwarted by the reptile's continued grip and rolling motion. Roberto drowned within minutes as the massive blood loss and trauma overwhelmed his system. Emergency responders arrived within 15 minutes of the homeowner's 911 call, but Roberto had already succumbed to his injuries. Wildlife officers worked for several hours to safely capture the 10-foot female alligator, which had retreated to the pond's vegetation after completing her attack. The reptile was relocated to a remote area of the Everglades, away from human populations. The investigation revealed that the ornamental pond's connection to natural waterways had allowed the large alligator to enter the residential area undetected. Roberto's death prompted immediate changes to Cypress Point's water feature management, including the installation of barriers between decorative ponds and natural drainage systems, and new safety protocols for maintenance workers. But Florida's waterways weren't the only suburban environments where predators claimed human lives. In California, a teenager's decision to take a shortcut home would put him directly in the path of a displaced mountain lion seeking new territory. It was December 9, 2018, and the hillside community of Canyon Vista in suburban Los Angeles was experiencing an unusually warm winter evening. The residential development, built where urban sprawl met the wild chaparral of the Santa Monica Mountains, featured homes perched on steep slopes with spectacular views of the city below. Kevin Chen, a 16-year-old high school junior and varsity basketball player, was running late after practice and decided to take his usual shortcut through an undeveloped lot rather than follow the longer route along the main road. Kevin was an honor student and star athlete who balanced academic excellence with athletic achievement, earning recognition as one of his school's most promising college prospects. He lived with his parents and younger sister in a modern home that backed up against the natural open space that made Canyon Vista such a desirable address. Kevin often used the informal trails and vacant lots to move quickly between his home and school, a practice that had never caused any problems during his 4 years in the neighborhood. The Canyon Vista area had been experiencing increased wildlife activity, following a series of devastating wildfires that had burned thousands of acres in the surrounding mountains. The fires had displaced numerous predators, forcing them to seek new territory and food sources in areas they had previously avoided. Local authorities had issued warnings about mountain lion sightings in residential areas, but most residents viewed these as routine precautions rather than serious threats. Kevin was aware of the wildlife warnings but had never encountered any dangerous animals during his frequent use of the neighborhood's informal trail system. He carried his basketball gear in a backpack and typically moved quickly through the undeveloped areas, confident that his familiarity with the terrain and his athletic ability would keep him safe from any potential threats. Mountain lions are solitary predators that require large territories to support their hunting needs, with adult males controlling ranges of up to 100 square miles. Juvenile males are particularly dangerous as they establish new territories, often displaying more aggressive behavior than experienced adults. These young cats are less skilled at hunting natural prey and may target easier victims, including domestic animals and occasionally humans. Mountain lions are capable of incredible stealth and can stalk prey for extended periods before launching surprise attacks from close range. As Kevin jogged through the overgrown vacant lot, he was unaware that an 80-pound juvenile male mountain lion had been using the area as a hunting ground for domestic cats and small dogs that wandered from nearby homes. The young cat had been displaced from his natal territory by an older, more dominant male, and was desperately seeking to establish new hunting grounds that could support his survival. The mountain lion had been stalking Kevin for several hundred yards, moving silently through the dense brush while staying downwind to avoid detection. The cat's hunting instincts were triggered by Kevin's size, movement pattern, and the fact that he was alone and vulnerable in the predator's newly claimed territory. The attack came from behind as Kevin navigated through a particularly dense section of chaparral. The 80-pound mountain lion launched himself from the brush with explosive force, his powerful hind legs propelling him through the air to land squarely on Kevin's back. The impact drove Kevin face first into the rocky ground, while the cat's claws found purchase in his shoulders and back. The mountain lion's jaws clamped down on the back of Kevin's neck, his 4-inch canine teeth puncturing through muscle and vertebrae, while his bite force targeted the spinal cord. Kevin's attempts to fight back with his backpack proved futile against the cat's superior strength and positioning. The mountain lion's razor-sharp claws raked across Kevin's shoulders and torso, each swipe opening deep gashes that caused massive blood loss. Kevin's screams for help echoed through the hillside community, alerting residents in nearby homes to the emergency unfolding in the vacant lot. Several homeowners called 911 while attempting to locate the source of the disturbance, but the dense vegetation made it difficult to pinpoint Kevin's exact location. The mountain lion continued his attack for several minutes, driven by predatory instincts and the stress of establishing new territory. Police and paramedics arrived within 10 minutes of the first 911 call, using Kevin's continued cries for help to locate him in the brush. The mountain lion fled when the emergency responders approached with bright lights and loud sirens, disappearing into the chaparral that covered the surrounding hillsides. Kevin was airlifted to a trauma center, but died from massive blood loss and spinal injuries during emergency surgery. The investigation revealed that the juvenile mountain lion had been displaced by recent wildfires and was attempting to establish new territory in the residential area. Wildlife officers tracked and euthanized the cat the following day, determining that his aggressive behavior toward humans made him unsuitable for relocation. Kevin's death prompted the city to fence off all vacant lots in hillside communities and develop new wildlife management protocols for areas where urban development meets natural habitat. The Canyon Vista community implemented comprehensive safety measures including motion sensor lighting along all informal trails, emergency communication systems, and mandatory wildlife awareness training for all residents. Kevin's family established a memorial foundation to support wildlife safety education and habitat preservation programs that reduce human-wildlife conflicts. Thanks for watching. Click the next video that will show you how wildlife continues to invade human spaces with devastating consequences.